Other news at this hour, the BRICS Youth Energy Summit has reflected on the youth's vision for energy cooperation, as well as energy, access and security in BRICS and Africa. The summit that just concluded in Sandton with about 19 countries represented, addressing the delegates on behalf of South Africa's Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, DG Mr. Jacob Mbele, emphasized on the priorities and vision for South Africa's BRICS presidency in the field of energy, particularly leading efforts on ensuring energy access and security in all of Africa and empowering youth as the next generation of energy leaders. Well, to take this discussion further, joining us in studio to discuss more is Mr. Alexander Kormishin, as well as Chairperson of BRICS Youth Energy, who is the Chairperson of BRICS Youth Energy Agency from Russia, and Ms. Elizabeth Marabwa, Chief Director of Mineral Resources and Energy from the Republic of South Africa. Good afternoon to the both of you. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wonder if we could just get a summation of some of the key outcomes that emerged after the summit that just wrapped. Elizabeth, perhaps you could walk us through what those key takeaways were for you.
I'm pleased that the young people met and discussed pertinent issues that are affecting the BRICS member countries together with the Global South, hence the 19 different member countries. The BRICS youth actually confirmed that it is critical and important for them to contribute to the energy discourse. Having the summit held in South Africa, they felt that it was important to focus on energy security and energy access, noting that in the rest of Africa we have over 600 million people without access to clean and sustainable energy. We also have 950 million people without access to clean cooking stoves, and hence energy pollution, indoor pollution is affecting them. So that was a pertinent issue for them, and they committed to ensure that they encourage their member countries to focus on energy security. So that was a key takeaway for me. The youth also wanted to have an effective forum and effective communication going forward through digital mechanisms and also virtual meetings to ensure that they continue discussions, not to hold meetings once in a while. And lastly, they have committed to actually give a publication on the BRICS Youth Outlook, which is going to be focusing on energy access, particularly in Africa. And the publication will be out sometime in October, November this year, and will be circulated digitally as well. So for me, that clearly demonstrated the commitment of youth. The other important issue that they raised is the issue of critical energy minerals. They indicated that Africa is richly endowed with critical energy minerals, and it is important for Africa and African energy ministers and African ministers of mineral resources to make sure that we don't go forward and export the raw materials, but rather beneficiate those raw materials, and that energy ministers should also look at ensuring that we prepare ourselves by ensuring that we have the critical skills that are necessary for us to have the relevant industries to beneficiate the various critical energy minerals that we have. To culminate that, they then visited Mintech, which is one of the companies where we could clearly demonstrate that it's possible for us to beneficiate the minerals. Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you for those observations and sentiments. Alexander, I want to bring you into the conversation on the back of what Elizabeth echoed, because the decisions that are made today, ultimately the youth are going to bear the brunt and the consequences thereof as one. So I wonder, on the back of what Elizabeth echoed, what some of your key takeaways were from the session.
Thank you very much. Actually, the key takeaways, there are a lot, because the summit had a massive program that was actually concluded only within 2 days, when the second day had only the so-called discussion on the outlook with technical sides, and the first day had not only the opening ceremony but around 9 sessions, and this is all within 1 day. So we were actually discussing a lot of things in line with what Elizabeth said, and we also addressed the topic of food systems, because it's incredibly important when we are addressing energy access, and it's the G7. So we've talked a lot about what the United Nations are doing in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. This was one of the key topics at the agenda. taken that this Women Month, we've also had a session for empowering women in STEM. And this is one of the key agenda for driving our youth agenda forward, because young girls in STEM are actually the one who are trying to get into the profession, and we are enabling massive opportunities for them also on the youth level through the Outlook, where we are engaging different universities and also engaging different partners who are doing different leadership programs and also making the smooth transition and also access for women in the energy sector possible. One of the key things I would also like to highlight is that this specific summit was for Africa. We had many members from other African states, but also for the countries from the global south. This is very important to highlight because it highlights that the activity that has been driven by BRICS Way as a mechanism for BRICS Youth Energy Cooperation is on demand in other countries of the global south. I would like to give you an example that people from Thailand and Indonesia made their way to South Africa to participate in the discussions and also share their expertise, what it is important for them, and how their BRICS approach to energy development is really close to them in their specific work. So this is what I think was really important.
Well, you're speaking about issues of representation, inclusivity, perhaps bridging the gaps of inequities and inequalities, which we see systemically in some of the global south countries. And I wonder at this point if the youth will also be part of the decision-making process, and how will they get access to employment opportunities as well, given that they will be bearing the brunt of the decisions that have been made.
Yes, with regards to the decision-making process, I guess what we've been doing at BRICS Way has a very systematic approach to bringing the youth voices into the so-called decision-making. Just let me give you an example how it's working with regards to the joint youth declaration that was presented at the 5th anniversary BRICS Youth Energy Summit here in South Africa. Once the declaration is presented, so it's being handed over to the BRICS senior energy officials that are considering the framework, how the presentation of the joint youth declaration has to be taking place. And on the 18th of August, when the ministers' meeting is taking place, I believe that the joint youth declaration will find its highlight within this ministerial. And of course, we're looking forward that the highlights from the declaration will be added up to the heads of state declaration. And this is how we see the decision-making process taking place. And we see the value in this as a very systematic approach, without strikes on the street, without making something that is uncomfortable to all the stakeholders of that process. So we are directly engaging young people and making a platform for their voices to be implemented, heard, and included into real decision-making.
Elizabeth, let me bring you back into the conversation. On the back of what Alex just spoke about, I wonder if you could speak to what the representation of women looks like. I mean, it's Women's Month as well in South Africa, but in terms of IT, in terms of STEM as well, do you think that enough is being done to incorporate women in that space? If so, how are we faring?
From the South African perspective, enough is being done to make sure that we include women into the energy space. We are focusing particularly on bringing young girls. We have a program as a department that encourages young girls from particularly rural areas to make sure that those young girls are brought into the energy space. They are informed about the energy value chain, including the mining value chain. We go out into the provinces, we take the best state learners, and we have what we call a Learners Focus Week. And through that program, we sometimes give as much as 50, 60, 90. This year, because of the economic downturn, we only managed to secure 31 bursaries, and most of those went to young girls who will be starting STEM-related programs in the energy and mining space, so that we bring them on stream. We also have special programs that are focusing on women, not only for STEM but for business women, to make sure that we bring them within the energy space. And the program of research through the Energy Outlook focuses at universities, and through that program they also have young ladies at various higher institutions of learning contributing articles. All that is a demonstration that we want to include women, but we also want to create thought leadership in the energy space from young people so that they effectively contribute to the energy discourse and make sure that we have both from an academic point of view, from a policy perspective, and from a professional perspective. The speakers on the summit were also equally balanced. We had a number of young speakers from all over the Global South and BRICS member countries participating as experts in various fields who contributed to the discourse, and we are comfortable that we are grooming young girls. We are also grooming thought leaders in the energy space.
Speaking about navigating this new space, I wonder if we could look at how we're incorporating issues that would have come up during the discussion and the discourse, climate change, new technologies, innovation, etc. How that has come to the fore, given that the world is shifting, way of work is shifting, skills of the future are also required. How is that driving the BRICS Youth Energy outlook as well?
Well, I must admit that this is one of the key topics that we are looking at within the outlook development. The skills and so-called skills for energy transition is incredibly important, and it's of course reflected in the outlook on the youth level, because one thing that is really important to note is that such a report is being currently driven at the interstate level on a skills report. And right now what we have with the outlook is that people who are currently making the outlook happen are addressing it in every single country on the youth level. So young people are choosing this topic as a potential one that's worth addressing right now. So this agenda is really on the top, and we are addressing it within the outlook. Young people will be contributing the articles and also given scenarios analysis. What can be done to really bring this skills gap, well, make it filled first of all, and then bring the skills for energy transition to the forefront of the energy sector. In this regard, I would also like to notice that there are also many other topics that are worth addressing within the outlook, and they are being addressed, including the climate change. Many young people are currently advocating for urgent climate action. However, we also have to look at this just spot. We have to look at energy transition and how climate change and energy transition are working together. And young people, what they are doing right now is that they are trying to find the one specific way where there is a balance between the urgent climate action and energy transition, which is just for the global south. And this is incredibly important that we define the just thing within the global south, and this is what young people are doing. So this is what the outlook for Africa, the BRICS Energy Outlook, which is titled on, as Energy Access Outlook, will be especially driving it. So we need to define the terms, and young people from the global south are ready to do that.
Alexander and Elizabeth, thank you for your time with us on the SABC and for giving us that feedback. Alexander Kormishin is the chairperson of BRICS Youth Energy Agency from Russia, and Elizabeth Marabwa, Chief Director, Mineral Resources and Energy from the Republic of South Africa. Just breaking down some of the key outcomes at the BRICS Youth Energy Summit that, of course, reflected on the youth's vision for energy cooperation, energy access and security in BRICS and the continent at large. Again, thank you to the both of them for their time on the SABC.